Well, would you look at that, another spin-off series. As we are approaching the end of the series, I think it's about time we see some business being done. I want these games to hit their stride. They had plenty of games to learn their mistakes and their accomplishments from. Even better, this spin-off series is written by series creator Shutakumi, so did they manage to do something cool with this game in particular? No. The Great Ace Attorney Adventures is just okay. It's a very rough game in all fronts. I understand that this game introduces a new cast of characters, a new time period to introduce the players, so they have to do a bunch of other things that need establishing, and many more. But there is no reason why this game needed to be as long as it is. This game gets very repetitive at times with how much they like to iterate on the same points at times, and it gets very boring when everything in this game is very long-winded. Playing the 3DS games kind of makes me miss how quick and snappy the Phoenix Wright trilogy is. If there's one thing I will commend that first trilogy for, is the fact that at no point did I feel like my time was disrespected. Conversely, my time feels actively disrespected to the detriment of me and the game. Many times I wish this game would get a move on already. I like some of the things the game does, but if I have to do one thing to fix this game on a fundamental problem, is cut down on the dialogue and fix the pacing, and you should be golden. Seriously, the biggest problem with this series is pacing. They cannot get it right, for the love of God. It's so annoying just sitting there, listening to the characters talk their ass off with zero input from the player aside from clicking to see the next dialogue. The amount of talking these characters do is extremely excessive. Talk options have been a thorn on my side for quite some time now, but it's an issue that got worse and worse over time. Like seriously, this series started as a detective series and evolved into a basic ass visual novel. Well, okay, I'm exaggerating, but still. Well, anyways, there's not a whole lot of stuff to talk about in this game, so there's no need to dump all of that here. But instead, I can talk about some aspects of the game once we reach them during my case reviews. The Great Ace Attorney Adventures presents 5 cases for the player to solve, so without further ado, let's get started. The Adventure of the Great Departure is the tutorial/introductory case of the game, and it's quite a mediocre one. Everything leading up to the reveal that poison was used in this case was actually pretty fine for the most part. The case starts to descend in quality when they introduce the concept of poison used to kill the victim. It was done in quite a sloppy way with no proof. Ryunosuke just randomly brings up poison as a possibility, yet acts like that's what happened. Like, no, you presented the bottle as evidence, but there's no proof of anything. Kinda cool of them to straight up say they tested the contents of the bottle and found no trace of poison. And it gets worse afterwards. The series proceeds to do this one thing that they have done before in other games, and it isn't any less annoying and frustrating the millionth time they do. I hate that Susato barges in and gives the defense the evidence necessary to win. I think I said this a million times, so I will say it again because why not? What's the point of me, the player, thinking the case through and figuring out what happened and what didn't happen if I get evidence that gives me the win? There's no point in me even being here if the case decides to solve itself. It's also very shallow and obvious plot armor moments where the universe makes the protagonist win the case because they have to. Then Giselle loses her shit and destroys the bottle. Why did she do that? Her doing this means nothing. She just incriminated herself more for no reason. They just established during these moments that karate doesn't exist. She knows this fact, so why did she get rid of evidence for no fucking reason besides drama? I also don't know why doesn't anybody mention the poison works when entered through a wound. I don't get why they had to have the super dramatic moment where Giselle drinks the alleged poison water. They could still do that and then have Ryu act very confident now all of a sudden. It would be much better and the trial would flow a million times better because we're actively questioning the case at hand. Also, at one point Ryunosuke makes a valid point, but Giselle never offers an answer and seemingly gets ignored by everyone else. And then oh, this is funny. And then Ryunosuke uses his powers of observation to suddenly remember that he saw a blood stain on the plate. Number 1, this power of observation bullshit never comes up ever again after this case, so they made up bullshit because they got stuck in their own mystery. And number 2, this twist doesn't work because in the photographic print we don't see a specific shading in the place where Ryu thinks for a certain there was a blood stain, so you can't even be sure of that fact, nor was this even properly foreshadowed. This moment is just one big ass pull. Then the inspector brings the plate and uh-oh, no blood. We examine the stake and find a Kuban coin. Then we bring back the first 2 witnesses and ask Korakuta if that coin belongs to him, and he confirms this fact with 100% certainty. I think it's safe to say that this plate right here was not Giselle's plate. that she ate at the restaurant. So why the hell does it take forever for Ryunosuke to point this out? Why are we randomly accusing Soldier Boy for being a thief with no proof? And why does this idiot incriminate himself and has a breakdown 2 seconds later? Jeez man, this entire sequence of events is extremely rushed. His explanation is nonsense anyway, like just lie about the coin if you were that concerned the police was gonna inspect her belongings. And I have no idea why he swapped the plates in the first place. There's no reason to do so. If the police inspects one plate, then who's to say they won't inspect every plate that got served in the restaurant that day? And then afterwards, everyone is pissing themselves because, well, she's about to get away, and I'm literally sitting there and wondering why doesn't Ryo just ask the detective to bring the other plate. If he took one plate, then surely he took the other. It's so obvious the plate that's here right now is not Giselle's, but Nosa's. The coin being where it was is proof of that. Like, my god dude, not everything has to be this grand plot twist to shock me. Also, another thing I want to mention, if the victim got poisoned and then ended up being shot by Giselle, then how did the blood get on the plate in the first place? It just seems impossible. The plate would be next to her. There's no way random blood flew all the way across the table and landed where it did. If that's the case, then why isn't there more blood on the table? One final thing is that the game doesn't really give me the opportunity to bury the hatchet and definitely prove Giselle is the killer. I don't know, I kind of feel like shit just happened and they randomly confessed without any agency from me, the player. I complain about people randomly confessing, but those moments always happen when I say a few words and they spurg out soon afterwards. But here, I'm not even given the courtesy of doing anything, it just happens. I don't know. That's how I kind of feel like. To end this case review on a more positive note, I love Giselle Brett's design. She features quite the striking features. So striking that Kazuma's jab at Ryu for his power of description being sorely lacking caught a chuckle out of me. I also love how super racist they made her. The game will definitely take place in England sooner than later by the looks of things, and this was the perfect way to give players a glimpse of what they might expect once we reach England. Maybe it's a bit too much considering that people over there don't seem that racist, which makes Giselle look like fucking mega Hitler over there. The Adventure of the Unbreakable Speckled Band is an investigation-only case, in a quite traditional Ace Attorney gameplay loop. Now listen, an investigation-only case can be good as long as the game features plenty of game mechanics to allow that investigation-only case to shine. And unfortunately, the Grey Ace Attorney is not that. Even then, this case is such a massive fucking slog, dude. Holy shit, this case is 3 hours long and you only investigate 3 rooms. That's it! The game features dance of deduction as an investigation-only mechanic, and that's it. And it's not even good. You just listen to this guy named Herlock Sholmes spout a bunch of bullshit the first go around, and then you listen to his bullshit again until you reach a prompt where you either play a basic ass Where's Waldo minigame or you present evidence. What are we doing here? I don't think I need to tell you guys how shit this game mechanic is, so I'm just gonna move on. I will talk about Herlock Sholmes, but not in this video. Rather, I'm gonna wait until Grey Ace Attorney 2 where I will share my grievances with this character. Anyways, one thing you will do in this case is abuse the fuck out of those talk options. This entire case is nothing but talk option after talk option. There's nothing in this case to substantiate how dragged on and boring the case gets at a certain point. Susato acting like an idiot when it comes to Ryu being accused again, even though it's impossible for Ryu to have done it. Not sure why everyone took some random bloke spotting nonsense seriously, but I digress. Like, let's think about this for a moment. There's no reason why anyone should suspect Ryunosuke being involved in the murder, like at all. Like, sure, he was a stowaway, but like he was inside the wardrobe, and the wardrobe had a sticker on it. I don't think Ryunosuke has access to black magic as far as I'm concerned. The entire incident is an accident as well, done in the strangest way possible. Like, the culprit just pushed Kazuma and then he hit his neck badly, and that's it. But I have played these games before, so this entire case is meaningless anyway. Whatever, the case is very bad. Moving on. The Adventure of the Runaway room is decent. The first half is pretty solid, all things considered, although I kinda wish I did one objection before being thrust into the new courtroom mechanic. As for the new courtroom mechanic, it's called Summation Examination. It's rather bare bones in this case, you only do one, and it's just you finding 2 very basic contradictions from the statements of all jurors. Also, narrative-wise, I think it expected you to do it in a specific way, because there is this scene where the foreman berates juror 3 for his decision, which that's now how I did in my playthrough, so oops. I also wonder why one of the contradictions is that 2 jurors thought up of 2 different stabbing incidents. That's a bit strange. I don't think it's a bit much to assume a third party had to be at the scene. I don't know, you can argue the victim was on the other seat and when he got stabbed, bloodshot on the opposite seat. Now that I think about it, I wonder how that would play out, because that's kind of an interesting argument. Anyways, the second half is a little ridiculous. The entire scenario just doesn't work. It's so obvious. The blood was forged if you had eyeballs to boot, and even then, if the blood is being questioned, then why not test it? That hasn't stopped anyone in the past. In the future. Whenever there was something unexpected, it would get investigated. Here, they decided to do the guilty defendant shtick, but worse than case 4 of Justice for All. And they made the argument that the body fell through the skylight, but if that's the case, then why didn't Gina testify to that fact? She clearly stated she heard no door opening. The skylight is, well, kind of a door/window hybrid, and it can be open and closed, so surely she should have heard that. But nobody mentions that detail. That's a big ass contradiction. I also have no idea why didn't Barack call to the stand Scotland Yard officers that investigated the omnibus to confirm if it was tampered or not. He said he oversaw the entire thing. Surely there should be grounds to be sus of some nefarious deeds. Ultimately, my point is that this entire scenario doesn't make sense to me, and it's a forced way to inject development into Ryunosuke. I like Magnus McGilded. I don't like that he rehashes the entire guilty defendant plot in a not good way, but I still like this guy. He shows a calm demeanor throughout the entire trial up until the moment he decides to snap, which is a huge moment because everyone is not so sure of the facts, yet he insists that the facts determine that he is innocent. And the way how the trial abruptly ends must have been quite a delight for McGilded. Also, McGilded is literally Mr. Beast if he was British and it was the 1900s. The witnesses in this case are pretty good. Like, yeah, it's obvious Magnus did it, but it's not as black and white as everyone thought, since these witnesses are also quite shady. Well, okay, there's one exception, but besides that, I like that these particular set of witnesses are not off the hook immediately. I also love the new prosecutor of the game, Barack Van Zieks. He's such a fascinating character in every facet. He's very racist because he was betrayed by Japanese people. It doesn't excuse this type of behavior, but it does explain why he is like this, and the next game will go into minute detail about the ins and outs of this one specific character trait. I love that his title, The Reaper of the Bailey, is accentuated by his rather Dracula looking fit. He kind of looks like a vampire. Even his theme song makes him look more and more vampire-esque. His mannerisms in the court are one of an inquisitive mind, and often surprisingly childish at times. And he makes some pretty based arguments at times. And other times, when he makes bad arguments and he has all these fancy animations to go along with it, it sounds like ChatGPT. I still love this guy. Overall, this case is decent, nothing more and nothing less. The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro is a weird case. For starters, one must ask this very simple question. What the hell is going on during the investigation? Why the fuck is the entire thing comprised of talking to people, a layman's dance of deduction, talking to people, and only finding 2 pieces of evidence by the end of the investigation? Like, what the fuck were Ryunosuke and Susato doing the entire time? It's like we investigated everything that's around the crime scene, but not the crime scene itself, aka the street where the incident took place. And there's no reason why it took me 2 hours to get through this shit. This is a bit ridiculous, ain't it? The first half of the trial isn't any better. It's actually kinda ass. You do an objection that's fine and dandy, and then Runo brings up another theory that's straight up impossible if you consider the defendant's testimony of him seeing the victim. Then the first submission examination comes in and it's bad. Like, one of the solutions is this one juror was working on that street, he was doing his business, and that could have prompted Soseki to go a different route. Reluctant approval. What do you mean the second solution is, oh, this random old man was on the other route and he slipped on the ice and conveniently wore green the day of the incident and during court now? Runo tried his hand at bending reality, but Barack scolded his ass deservedly. Well, that summation examination was trash. Moving on to the 2 witnesses, and man, press every statement minus statement 2 is how I got through this part. That's strange. The contradiction here is that there were 4 books as opposed to only 3 books Soseki definitely had because there's a receipt. Alright, fine. Then here comes the second submission examination, which is also trash. So I love that we had this discussion earlier before this about how there was a fire inside the Garadeb household because one of the books found at the scene belonged to this household and suggested they might have opened the window like normal people would. And then everyone was like, no you idiot, nobody opens a damn window during the winter, you numpty. Like, what? We talked about a fire happening inside a house. Did I ever forget that detail? What's so shitty is that that's the first thing the game wants you to do. Press the old guy to talk about how he had to do that during his birthday and then pit him with juror 3? Like, did I ever fucking forget the discussion we had earlier? What the hell? And then we pursued juror 4, but wait, that's not it. That didn't do shit. So I was confused because I didn't know what to do afterwards, but I guess my bad for not pressing juror 4 just so we can have juror 5 reminisce about his abusive household. The actual only solution is that that women, if anchored, will throw anything which somehow connects with what Juror 2 said about possible ways this crime came to be. Sure, I guess. So far, this mechanic is not good, and from the looks of it, this case seems to be trash. Does it get better after this? Surprisingly, yes! I don't know why the rest of the case is decently solid compared to everything up until now. But before we go any further, I need to nitpick the fact that Barack, for some fucking reason, still denies the discussion about the fourth book, and like, why, dude? The victim was seen holding the freaking thing, and we know it came from a specific location that's in the vicinity of the scene, which means there's no reason to ignore this one aspect of the crime, man. Anyways, the case finally decides to be enjoyable for once. I like the entire discussion and deduction that the constable tampered with the crime scene in order to have a lenient time with the investigations because he wanted to have a night off with his wife. That was fun, and I did feel a bit for Rowley there. He also provided the best one-liner in the entire series. It still kind of sent a chill down my spine for a bit after all this time. I like the entire sequence of how this crime came to be from the final testimony to the end. I think it made enough sense to me. The fact that this case is in another accident is a bit lame considering we just had an accident case that was not good, but thankfully this one isn't as bad as case 2. The culprit is a complete nothing burger. Anyways, here are a couple of small positives I have with this case. The designs of John and Joan Caridep is funny but also really cool. Symbolizing the sun and the crescent moon lends to quite a fun visual gag between these two characters. Also, John overpouring tea on John's cup is very much domestic violence, but it's also very funny. I can see this shit happening in a slapstick-centric show like Tom and Jerry. This case features the world-famous Baroque Van Siek's line about a certain career in the circus. That was a funny lineup. There's no one straighter than my husband got a big laugh from me. I'm not sure why. I don't think there was any intention for a bit/joke. Nevertheless, this made me laugh. The two witnesses, Rolly and Patricia, are pretty good witnesses that provide a fun enough side plot into this murder plot. In this case, also features my goat Soseki Natsume. I love this eccentrically exaggerated essence of a character. He's pretty fun, and I like how his entire character is just him having a shit life in London. That's funny, but I do feel bad for his plight. The moment where he's extremely relieved to be talking to Japanese people is a turning point for Ryonosuke. That last trial left him wondering if he's up to task, and if he even wants to continue doing this. In this case right here, it convinced him to go further. Overall, the case is fun, but I kind of wish the first half wasn't that bad. Why the fuck is the setup of this case 2 hours long? The investigation segment took me 3.5 hours to get through because it was so fucking long for no reason. You know you have done something like this before, Takumi. Bridge to the turnabout. You had a moment that was nothing but setup, and even during the setup, the murder plot was set in motion by the end of it, and it only took 25 minutes to get that point across. All you need to know is that the murder obviously will occur at this pawnbrokery. Stereoscopic bullshit will be addressed later in the court. This guy over here will die, and Gina wanted to check if Iris's manuscript for her latest novel is where Herlock said it was. Oh, and this guy will be involved in the trial one way or another, later down the road. I think you could have done all of this in 1 hour, maybe an hour and a half at most, and that's being generous. There's no reason to have so much dialogue when nothing of note has happened so far in the case. And the investigation this time actually feels like a normal investigation, like we investigate the crime scene properly for once. I just wish these characters would get a move on at times because they're yapping my ear off until I can't hear no more. The first half of the trial is kind of a mishmash of I like this and I don't like this. I like the Mario and Luigi looking witnesses. The submission examination segments are mediocre. The first one wasn't all that bad, aside from the fact that one of the solutions is to inform a juror of what the hell is happening in the trial because he wasn't paying attention, which is a bit lame, but I did like the entire thing stereoscope. Although the way to trigger it was a bit dumb since I was pressing juror 3 and nothing was happening, which confused me greatly. Then the second one just happens and then ends. Not much input from the player. We talk about wild coincidences with jurors 4 and 6, and then we get the exact piece of evidence we need to continue. I already explained why I hate this, so I'm just gonna move on. What's aggravating is that they do it again near the end of the trial. Like, bro, can you stop that? So overall, submission examination is bleh. Every single time they used this mechanic, I had one issue with it. The only one I didn't have much of a problem with is the very first one you do in the game. But that's because it's so fucking basic and just a tutorial to introduce the mechanic to you. I also don't like how the first time we do one of these in the trial, it has to be done in such a way that undermines the first testimony. Why does it have to happen so soon in the trial anyways? What's the rush? The way the first summation examination is used seems to be exclusively for Runa to make deductions whether correct or incorrect ones. As for the case itself, it works I guess. If I have to nitpick then, why does Barack object to the blood sample evidence we present in court because Herlock Shrom's a stinky poo-poo caca dumb bloke, yet he presents his case through photographic prints that originate from an invention made by said poo-poo caca stinky guy. And then he shows prints from the same contraction again, like you can't do this, did you forget your stance you made up 2 seconds ago? Or are Herlock's shitty cameras recognized by law? Well gee, I'm sorry, I guess I didn't get the memo. The only memo I got was welcome to Britain, please study illegal bullshit. I don't know what the fuck is even happening around here. If there's one thing I noticed about this game is that one half of a trial is clearly flawed, meanwhile the other isn't, which is a weird balance to strike. Because yeah, the entire discussion surrounding the government's secrets being concealed in those music box discs was pretty good. Its conclusion was pretty hype as well. I also commend this game for introducing a way more natural way to tell the player to pursue someone who hasn't reacted. Much better executed here than say pursuing a random cat that shows up at the witness stand randomly in Versus. And that final cross-examination. Couldn't we object with the photo that shows Gina and the victim? Because if you examine the background, you can see there's no peephole in the storeroom door. However, in the photo taken at 1:30 AM, you can see there's a peephole now, so that must mean it was created after the incident. Honestly, there was no reason to have Susato come under fire for tampering with the crime scene. Like yeah, she still did it, but nobody would have known. I really like Ashley Graydon. His story is quite fascinating, telling the tale of a poor kid living in the slums and being sick of it, so he set off to study hard, and now landed a job at Comms Telecommunications. He also sells government secrets. He asked his dad to make a music box to put 2 discs inside them, then his dad died at the hand of Magnus and then sought revenge where Magnus went from a McGilded to a McGrilled. Honestly, pretty good backstory. The part where he talked with Inspector Gregson and was making a deal of sorts mid-trial, mid-cross-examination even, in front of many people was fucking crazy. So overall this case is decent, a quite enjoyable final case for this game. It has some quirks that hold this one back, but I had a great time with this case. And that's it! The Grey Ace Attorney Adventures only released in Japan in 2015, and it sold like shit, but thankfully it got localized eventually through the collection I'm playing for footage in this video. This game is clearly very flawed, but it's an okay and at times enjoyable experience. I don't think the characters were that bad, there were plenty of good characters for my tastes. This entire game being centered around Runo coming around as a lawyer and his struggle with being in a foreign land that doesn't really like him, at least many people seem to pull the race card many times, is development that's a bit shaky at times, but I think it pulls it out pretty well. I really like Ryunosuke. He's my favorite fella, okay? Was this game the great game it advertised itself to be? No, but it was an okay game with very strong art direction. Pretty good usage of the 3D since it was a 3DS title first. Phenomenal soundtrack that I can't help but adore. Sure, its cases could have been written much better than they currently are, and the game mechanics it introduces aren't good, but it's nothing that a sequel can't look over and fix the shortcomings. However, next time we're not looking into the Grey Ace Attorney 2, we're gonna be looking into Spirit of Justice after I cover a random game to fill in the blanks in between since I'm done with Professor Layton games. Thank you so much for watching, have a nice day!